You know, it's interesting that people often think they can remake history. Well, it didn't work for them, but if it'll work for me. If I do it, no, you're not that special. I mean, you are special. God made you as an individual. That's fine, but you will not rewrite history. And it's interesting that even when you go back to French philosopher Charles Montesquieu, these are books that he did in the 1750s. He went through and said, you know, I really don't care what the theology of any nation is. I don't care about anything except what works and what doesn't. And he went through 1,000 years of world history, and he concluded that across that period of time, there are certain governments that failed every single time they popped up. Didn't matter what country it is, didn't matter what language it is, didn't matter what people it was, it never worked for anybody. And there were others that worked kind of well, and then there were some that worked really well. And he lays that out and goes through. And so from a historical standpoint, you don't have to make the mistakes everybody else has made, because if it's never worked in the history of the world, the odds of you making it work right, that's optimism. Well, that's not well-founded.
This is where the idea that you should measure what it produces. And if it doesn't produce something you like, then don't do it. If what you're looking for is freedom, there's certain forms of government you want to stay away from. If what you're looking for is prosperity, there's certain forms of government you want to stay away from. The problem is we live in a culture that promotes subjective truth and morality so much that thinks, well, really what's the most important is how you feel or what you think, and you can determine truth for yourself and you can make your own reality, instead of going, wait a second, no, there are some truths that do exist. There are some things we can point to, and we could universally agree there are some things that would be right and things that would be wrong, and yet we live in a culture that says, no, you should determine truth for yourself, instead of going, no, what's actually true? Not what is subjectively true, not what do you think is true, what is actually truth? There are some absolutes, and one of the absolutes is that through the history of the world, certain things have produced prosperity, have produced freedom, have produced stability, and certain things haven't. But we're just not really into measuring metrics and saying, let's duplicate what's been successful. Oftentimes, we think, no, let's take an idea that's never worked and we could be the ones to make it work. Well, that seems to defy logic, reason, history, right? Mathematics, all these things that should be common for people. This is one of the battles that we certainly are seeing in culture.